Hello, my name is ODELL Cleveland, and of course we practice safety, so I move my mask. You know, I've had the pleasure of writing a book. It's my turn now. And it tells the story of my sister, my brother, and myself taking care of our elderly mother. So one of the things that we realize is that as caregivers, we all go through struggles. So we wrote this book to talk about the three phases of the struggles, usually what we call the appointed time. We believe that at some point in each of our lives, we either be a caregiver or need someone to be a caregiver for us. The second point, the duration of time. How long, Lord? How long will my role as a caregiver will last? For some of us, it's been lasting for years, and others, not that long. And the third thing, and this is so important, when your time as a caregiver is up, will you feel guilty or relieved? And will you feel guilty for feeling relieved? Let me say that again, because in the book, asking that question, I got so many different answers, and many of these answers will surprise you. So the question was, when your time as a caregiver is up, will you feel guilty or relieved? And will you feel guilty for feeling relieved? You know, I was talking to a friend of mine about the book I was planning on writing, and one of them worked for the News and Record, the local newspaper here. And they said, we want to write a story about you writing a book on your mother. And it kind of caught me off guard, but they did. And what I want to do now, I want to read to you the article that was written about me writing a book about my mother. So excuse some of the reading, but this is powerful. Thank you. It's my turn now. Greensboro Reverend writes a book about family experience as a caregiver for the elderly mother. He is a man of the cloth and a man of accomplishments, a community leader, the chief administrative officer at 6,000 member Mount Zion Baptist Church. But to his mother, he is her pumpkin, and that means the world to Reverend ODELL Cleveland. Cleveland is the second of 4 children born to Glenda Adams Cleveland. I was this kid who always got in trouble, he recalls. You know, you always have one. And Glenda Cleveland was a strict yet beautiful mother, he says. She was a fighter, and she's still fighting. But their roles have changed through the years. Glenda Cleveland is now 77, and time and a massive stroke at age 25 has caught up with her. So ODELL Cleveland finds himself increasingly focused on taking care of the woman who always was there for him. He's also made helping caregivers a part of his ministry, and he's written a book, It's My Turn Now, about his family's experience. He hopes to have it published early 2020. Writing the book was therapeutic for me, he says, and he knows that a lot of people are going through the same thing. A lot of people indeed. AARP cites a survey that found 1 in 4 adults in North Carolina provide regular care for someone aged 60 and older. An increasing number of adult children are taking care of their aging parents, says McKeel Tate, caregiving support coordinators for Senior Resources of Guilford. The reason, she mentioned several. Among them, a large population of elderly people that is living longer, and medical improvements that meant early treatment and making staying with a caregiver more feasible. The thing about caregiver, it runs across race, religion, culture, everything, Cleveland says, and it's hard. But we keep it to ourselves. I don't know if we don't talk about it because we see it as a sign of weakness, or if we don't talk about it because we think we don't do a good job. We need to talk, he says, to talk and to know that we are not alone. She persevered. When Cleveland was a boy growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, his mother had a photo made of herself. And he says, I fell in love with that picture. Not long ago, he asked her why she had the photo made. She says, you know, I was 24 years old when I took this picture. I knew something was going to happen to me. I wanted to take a picture of me so that my children would remember what their mother looked like. So they wouldn't have to go and ask other people, Do you remember my mom? She had the stroke at age 25. She went to the emergency room, but she was sent home and told to wait and go to the free clinic even though she had insurance. 2 days later, her mother's doctor got her admitted to the hospital. It wasn't clear by then that she would live. She said she asked God to let her live long enough to see her 4 children grow up, Cleveland says. She didn't want her family to split the children. Glenda Cleveland survived, but she was a divorced single mother and she was disabled. Sooner or later, ODELL says, you forget that she's handicapped. She was just mom. When he was a child, he says, school had a tendency to send African American males, especially those thought to be acting up, to special education classes. And I remember my mother, and I think this sums up my mother, walking 3 miles with a wooden cane in her right hand and a full-length metal brace on her left leg, just to make sure they didn't put her pumpkin in special ed. I think that's the whole essence of her caring enough, going down there and challenging the system. We went through the ringer with it, but we won. Now she has a daughter who's 61, Cleveland who's 59, and another son who's 56. Her youngest daughter, who died in a car crash, would be 51. All of her children went to college. Some, like ODELL, got advanced degrees. Glenda Cleveland herself got a college degree. She gathered her children and she persevered, ODELL Cleveland says. What does that say when one poor, divorced, black single mom living in public housing, and she was able to take care of 4 children? And now you're telling me that 3 children can't take care of one mother? So that's the challenge. If she can do that, we definitely can do this. A life of emotions. They can, and of course, they are. Cleveland first noticed that his mother was losing weight. She was never a big woman, but she quit eating. She quit being as active as she used to be. She had to give up driving. She had long valued being able to get up and go. But she started having accidents, Cleveland says. Not bad accidents, just bump up here and a bump up there. Then she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. The cancer is in remission, but this strong, independent woman is now less so. Most adult caregivers, you have to have those tough conversations. It's not as comfortable to me as a son to act like the father, the adult. And I know it's definitely not comfortable for her to give up her will to her son. She loves me, but she'll say, I'm still your mother. Glenda Cleveland still lives in her home in Charleston with her other son. Someone comes in to help her get ready in the mornings, and she goes to the adult daycare, where she stays until her son gets home around 4 or 5 o'clock. ODELL Cleveland visits her every 2 or 3 weeks. He sends money to offset the cost and talks to her on the phone every 2 or 3 days. He has a career and a wife of 34 years. Beverly, who's the chief financial officer at Cone Health Medical Group. They have 2 adult children, 1 grandchild, and another one on the way. Sometimes I get busy, he says, and then things slow down or gets quiet, and I think about my mother. So I'll call her, and the good thing about my mother is that she's always happy to hear from me. He's grateful that he and his siblings are able to work together to take care of his mother, and he says that they keep their relationship intact by over-communicating. The biggest mistake a caregiver makes is thinking that it's simple, he says. We got it, and we don't have it. It's a life of emotions. I think one thing my book does is put it out there, and you invite people to have an open conversation by opening myself and my family up with their permission and how we handle the situation. Maybe it will give the people ideas and the courage to say, hey y'all, let's talk about this. He calls it a bedpan ministry. When you go and empty the bedpan, it's real. Oh, it's very real. Tate with Senior Resources conduct classes to help caregivers deal with stress. The focus on someone else contributes to stress, she says. Always the caregiver often is working or has children, and the cost can be a big concern. Then she says there's the notion that the child being in charge of the parent. But ODELL Cleveland says the hardest part of this difficult job is the thought of what you could have done better. Because memories live on. And in so many cases, we want our parents' approval, even into death. Maybe even more than that is knowing that no matter what you do, they're going to leave you. As a man of the cloth, I understand heaven, Cleveland says, but I don't want to talk about that now. I want my mother to stay here. Always remember. On a recent trip home, Cleveland made a lot of copies of the picture of his mother at age 24. And I taped it on her bedroom and in the spare room. I taped it in the hall. I taped it in the living room. Then he told her, "You took the picture so your children will always remember what you look like. And now I'm giving you this picture back so you will always remember who you are." And that she will always be his mother, and he will always be her pumpkin. I just want to thank you all for listening to the story. It's a very emotional story of me and our family taking care of a woman who took care of us. And I know for so many other caregivers out there, you're battling the same thing. I invite you to get the book, read the book, and become a part of our book club where we discuss issues openly. And all we've been getting so far from the time the book has been published on Amazon is people saying, "Wow, thank you. Thank you so much." Because the world of caregiving is hard and tough. And we believe that It's My Turn Now will help make the edges a bit softer. Thank you, and God bless.